Hi, everybody. I'm Carrie Sanderson. I'm the manager of well-being and engagement at Gateway Community College, and I also was the director of career services at Gateway for over 10 years. Really excited to talk to you today about career planning for success and well-being. So this is what we're going to talk about today, a little bit of an introduction to positive psychology and the science of well-being, and then we'll look at how that can align with career planning and the positive career decision model, and then we'll look at the ingredients to that model, which include character strengths, looking at your value, developing and articulating your own personal brand, and then designing a statement of your career purpose. There are going to be some exercises, some activities, so you should be able to access those worksheets from Canvas, and there just are going to be a couple of places in the presentation where you'll be able to pause and work on those. So just a really quick overview of the science of well-being. Positive psychology is a newer discipline in psychology. Traditionally, psychology has taken a look at all the things that can go wrong with us mentally and emotionally and sort of figuring out how to eliminate those or fix those. But about 25 years ago, a group of psychologists, researchers, and social scientists decided to kind of do a positive shift on that. And they decided to take a look at all the things that make our lives well lived. So, what are the things that make humans amazing? What are the things that make our lives fulfilling and meaningful? So this model called PERMA is one of the most widely accepted models of well-being. So there's 6 components that you need to have in some sort of balance in your life to really thrive and flourish. And those are positive emotion, which is the presence of heartfelt positivity, engagement, which is the development of your own personal strengths, kind of becoming the best you that you can be. At the center of all of it are relationships, so our opportunity to connect with other people and build deep and meaningful relationships. The fourth component, the M, is meaning. And that's kind of a little shift. When positive psychology started, people were kind of thinking of it just as the science of happiness, but all of the research has shown that happiness is important, but meaning, feeling like you're contributing to something, that you're making a positive difference, that you're part of something bigger than yourself, that has shown to be really, really, really important in living a good life. The fifth component is accomplishment. That's the ability to achieve things that matter. Humans are kind of programmed to always learn new things, to master new skills, to take steps towards goals. And then finally, this one became obviously much more important after or kind of during and after the pandemic, is health. So physical well-being, moving, sleeping, eating well, all the things that help us be well physically. So when we kind of look at thinking about those components of well-being as design principles for career planning, we can take those as components and kind of align them with this process of career planning, which includes all these different steps. And most of us will have multiple careers, multiple jobs, multiple pathways in our lifetime. You will probably have jobs that in the future that don't currently exist. I can tell you that when I was in college, there was no social media, there were no jobs, no app developers, any of that kind of stuff. And so there's always new things that are coming up. So you're going to be able to, it's important to learn this process and then you can kind of go through it periodically in your life. So the first step is self-assessment. So understanding your own identity, who you are as a person, what your strengths are, what your values are. That's some of the things that we're going to talk about today. And once you have a really clear idea of who you are and how to articulate that, you can do some research and explore options of careers that might be a good fit for you. Kind of take all that information, reflect, and decide. Um, and then develop an action plan. So, how am I going to achieve this? What do I need to do? What are my goals along the way? And then a big piece of it is developing a professional brand. So that's who you are and how you're received in the marketplace of work. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Um, this is the positive career decision model. So these are pieces that come from the PERMA model of well-being, but apply specifically to the types of decisions that you'll be making about choosing a career. So all of these pieces, as they come together, the sweet spot in the middle is probably a pretty wide variety of options for you. But as you're looking at careers and making decisions about the direction that you want to take, you want to make sure it's something that you love, that you really care about it, that it's exciting to you, that it's an area that you would like to always keep learning about. You want to be good at it too, right? So it's kind of hard to have a job in something that you're not that great at. I mean, we can learn all sorts of things, but you will really thrive when you bring your strengths and your skills to the table. And then, of course, it's important to be paid for it. So you always want to research salary ranges, options for advancement, all of those sorts of things. But that is not the key to choosing a career. So those are important things, but they really shouldn't be your main goal. Research shows that success comes when people love their work as opposed to they are just making a lot of money. If you choose a career based solely on the salary, you might succeed at it for a while, but it's not really a long-term option. And then finally, we talked a little bit about finding meaning, feeling like our work is contributing to something bigger than ourselves. And so you really want to look at your work as something that's valued by the world, something that's needed, something unique that you can bring to make a difference. So let's talk about some of these components. What is a strength? When we do this in person, a lot of times when I ask this question, people will kind of put their arms up like physical strength. But what we're talking about here is a capacity for feeling, thinking, and behaving in a way that allows optimal functioning in the pursuit of valued outcomes. So that's kind of a big statement, but what it means is your capacity for emotions, your capacity for thinking, for cognition, and then also a strength can be a way of behaving. And these strengths that we're going to talk about, character strengths, are those that allow you to be your very, very best, most genuine, authentic, awesome self. And when you use those strengths, then they should have a valued outcome. So you're doing something that's important, you're doing something that's meaningful to you and to other people. There's a video called The Science of Character that should be in your Canvas shell that you can watch. And I love this definition. It's the psychological air that we breathe. And so when you think about your strengths and think about not being able to express them, for instance, one of my top signature strengths is creativity. And I've had a couple of jobs where I really didn't get to be creative. And it was almost like taking the breath out of me that you feel drained, you feel exhausted, and you don't feel like yourself. So character strengths are when we are able to express them, they contribute to our well-being. So I think earlier in the semester you had a chance to take the Be a Character survey. If you haven't, you can take that for free. This survey it measures psychological strengths that are universally endorsed. And so it's based on a huge study that took place about 20 years ago with over 50 social scientists looking back through history across cultures. They researched every culture that has language around strengths and came up with this set of 24 that they found were universally endorsed in all of these cultures and kind of all through time. So they're based on 6 virtues of wisdom, courage, humanity, justice, temperance, and transcendence. There are some other kinds of strengths assessment that you may be familiar with. One of the other most well-known is called the Clifton Strengths Finder, and that's really about what you do. So that's kind of behavioral strengths that you can put into place at work. And it's a good, if you do both, that's awesome. But character strengths are more about who you are as a person, kind of the core ingredients of your personality, who you are. So there's lots and lots of research on character strengths and all of these positive outcomes. So it kind of comes down to just you being able to express your most authentic self and being able to use and leverage your natural strengths for positive outcomes. People that are able to do that have all these outcomes that you can see here. Intrinsic motivation. So when you have chosen for instance, in a career that really is meaningful to you and puts your strengths to the best use, then you're intrinsically motivated. You feel like you want to do it. It's not just about a salary. Strengths use has positive outcomes in almost all of the areas that we saw on the PERMA model. Happiness goes up, depression goes down, people make better choices, all sorts of really good things happen when you know and get to use your strength. And this is this was a really interesting research study that I like to share of employees at work being able to use their character strengths. So it was a really big study of one set of employees that knew their character strengths, had taken the assessment and were familiar with their own character strengths, and then another set of employees that had not. And those that just knew their top strengths were almost 10 times more likely to identify as flourishing at work. And then those that were able to actually use their strengths in their work, for instance, for me now, I get to use my creativity in the work that I do. Those employees were 18 times more likely to flourish at work. And so you can see this is a really important component to guide your career decision. So let's take a look at what character strengths might look at in action. This is actually the top strengths of a real person. So take a look at these and kind of think for a second, what would be a really good career for somebody that has all of these as their top strengths? And then I'll tell you who it really is. It's Dr. Stephen Gonzalez, who is the chancellor of all of the Maricopa Community Colleges. So he's been our leader since right before the pandemic. And I think most of us can agree that he's done a really great job. One thing I think is really important, I mean, all of these are important in a leader, but Dr. Gonzalez has a really good sense of humor, which makes him really approachable as a leader. Um, so that's what they can look like in real life. So I'm gonna ask you to pause for a moment and pull up this character strengths activity um, for you to reflect on your signature strengths. So you can do this for one or all. Most people have something like 5 to 8 signature strengths that you really identify as core to who you are. So you can take this and you can do this worksheet for each of those. But just to start with one, just to fill it in, what is, let's say, creativity? 3 reasons why creativity is awesome. And then you can go through this worksheet and it's really fun and it gives you a way to kind of think about your signature strengths and how they can be reflected in the world of work. And then you can think of 3 new ways that you can use this strength in a career. So we'll go ahead and pause and go do that activity and then we'll come back. So let's talk now about what is a personal brand. And this is really important. It's kind of your story in the workplace. So if you're familiar with marketing, I'm sure you can think of any number of famous brands that, people become really, really familiar with, like Nike or McDonald's or Google is a brand, right? It's the name of the company, but we actually even use it now as a verb. So I say to my kids all the time, what did we do before Google? We had to drive to the library. But that is an incredibly strong brand that represents the service of information gathering digitally, but we kind of have now adopted it into our lives as something that we can't live without, and it's a verb and it's an action, and so that hopefully kind of helps you understand a brand is what people kind of the expectations that people have around the product or service that they're going to be purchasing or using. So we have expectations around Google that it's going to come up with pages and pages of results for us. And so think about how you are as an individual and what your brand is, and kind of how people perceive you, how you perceive yourself, how you put your strengths out into the world, and kind of what that means in terms of looking for a job. So these are some questions that you can reflect on to be able to start to identify your own personal brand, kind of the who, why, and how. And who are you and who do you want to be? So kind of aspirationally, um, where are you now and who do you want to become? Who are you going to college to develop into? What the why is kind of what are your strengths, what are your interests, what do you like to do, what excites you, what do you want to learn about, and then what is important to you, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, about values. And think about how you develop your brand and how you maintain it. It's really about consistency and clarity of who you are and the way that you work and the way that you interact with other people. If you think about a project maybe that you worked on with a team in one of your classes, you want to make sure that everybody trusts you and they know that they can count on you, that you're reliable, that you're a great team member. So your performance on that project contributed to the way that your classmates kind of think of your brand. So there's lots of different things, lots of different assessments that you can look at. You've probably done many of these throughout the course. the character strengths, which we just talked about, also Strengths Quest, which is the strengths assessment I mentioned that has to do with your behaviors at work. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, you may have taken this, it's another personality assessment, and then a career interest assessment, which would kind of give you your interest level in 6 categories of work. These are actually my personal results here. So when I take a career interest assessment, it lets me know that I need to have some creativity in my work, and I also need to be around lots of other people. So this is kind of that self-assessment piece of the career planning model that we looked at, just really getting to know yourself. Um, I know you did some work on identity and who you are and what are the pieces that are really important to you from your culture and your upbringing and your lived experiences, and how all of those things come to play in guiding you in making a good career decision. So this is another exercise that we can pause and have you do. This is a values clarification exercise. So it's a list of lots and lots of different potential values for you, things that can be really, really important to you. And what we're going to do is take just a couple of minutes to identify your top 10, and then take that list of 10 and narrow it down to just 3 to 5. And this is really hard because there are a lot of things on here that are really, really important and really, really meaningful. But to you personally, what are the most important core values that guide the way you think about your life, the decisions you make? And so being able to articulate these can be really, really important in your career decision, because you will always want to make sure that the career and the job that you're choosing aligns and upholds your values. I've had jobs before where the job or the goal of the company didn't align with my core values, and it's a terrible place to be. And so it's important to really think about these. So let's go ahead and pause and pull up the values assessment and try to get it down just to 3. Okay, so now we've got lots of good information about who you are, what's important to you. Let's do another activity that helps you get some clarity around what your personal brand might look like and what you would like it to look like. So this is called the Personal Brand Audit Worksheet, which is kind of checking in on how people perceive you right now, how you're perceived in different areas of your life, and then articulating a goal of where you would like to go, what direction you would like to go with your career, kind of how you would like to build up your personal brand. And so you're gonna ask friends and family, you can ask professional colleagues, which could be people, fellow students or your faculty members, just to try to describe you in 3 words. And then you want to compare what everyone has said, and hopefully it's consistent. If everyone has come up with some really similar words to describe you, then you know that your brand is pretty strong. If it's kind of all over the board, then you'll need to work a little bit on clarifying what your brand is, and really in your behavior, bringing that to the table, demonstrating that. You also have a chance to think about someone who's a role model for you, whether that's someone you actually know or it's someone that you admire, and come up with some words to describe them. And then think about how your brand aligns with different jobs that you're interested in, different career paths that you would be interested in. So we'll pause for you to do that, and then you can come back. So let's talk now. You've done a little bit of work. You have some words, you have some verbiage, you have some ideas about your brand. Let's talk about how to tell your brand story. This can be really, really important, both in your time going through college and then in the world of work, to be able to really tell your story so that other people understand it. As you're in college and you're looking at different career opportunities, it's really, really, really important for you to be able to articulate this to other people. This can be really helpful in writing scholarship applications, in an interview, in explaining to family members maybe why you're making the choices that you are. And so let's take a look at this. This is an example of a real life student that I was working with in planning her career, and she's a teacher. So you can just say, I'm a teacher and I'm looking for a job, but that's not very compelling and it doesn't really capture who you are. And so this is the outline that we used to help her come up with her story. So it brings a little bit of her strengths into it. It's who she is, it's what she cares about, and what she wants to do in the future. So I am a dedicated and energetic teacher. I can motivate a room full of 8-year-olds to love reading, and I want to inspire a new generation to love books and learning. Isn't that beautiful? You can just imagine this, 8-year-old or so full of energy, and getting kids to kind of slow down and read is really kind of a magical skill. And so this is a very visual way of saying, this is who I am, this is what matters to me, and this is what I want to do in the future. So if you are starting to think about this, you can use this format of I am, I can, and I want to. And sometimes it feels like it's hard to come up with the right words, but just make sure you come up with the real words. So really think deep about who you are and what matters to you, and you can come up with a really great statement like this. So one of the final things that we want to take a look at is a purpose statement. So we know that if you have a really clear and meaningful career goal, that helps you feel motivated, feel intrinsically motivated, and to get through school when it gets hard. Because we know that college can be difficult. A lot of times people are worried about taking math and some of the other things that you might have to do as a part of your program. And so knowing that end goal and having a really clear vision of a meaningful career that you're going to be able to move into is really, really helpful. So when you start to think about creating a purpose statement, it kind of builds on your brand story, but is really specific about what you want to contribute to the world, what you want to be a part of. So think again about your strengths, your identity, the assets that you bring to the table, what your values are, and your aspirations. And it takes a while to come up with a really good purpose statement, and a lot of times they start out very long, so like a paragraph with lots of adjectives and things into it, but just like the values clarification exercise, to get it down just to the essence can be really, really powerful. So these are some examples of purpose statements that students have come up with to inspire children to be more than they thought they could be. That could be a teacher, but there also are a lot of other roles that could be. That could be a parent, it could be a coach. And so really having this not necessarily tied to a really specific job, but it's to the outcome. It's to the positive outcome that you want to contribute. This one is tied to a specific career, to be a teacher and inspire my students to be the best version of themselves. Um, and then this third one is to treat everyone I encounter with love and compassion. That's very values oriented, that this person would never be able to choose a career where they weren't able to express that. And let me share mine with you. So this is mine personally, to inspire a desire to enthusiastically participate in the world. So that was relevant when I worked in career services, and now that I've moved into a little bit of a different role, it's still very relevant to me. So as you think about kind of building and developing who you are and your positive personal brand, here are some things that you can keep in mind to build that up, to cultivate enthusiasm and curiosity. So just make sure that you're looking into areas that are really, really interesting to you, that you are excited about, that you want to learn more about. Curiosity is a really great strength to have in a career planning situation because it helps you explore lots and lots of different options. Seek out interesting new opportunities. So you want to be flexible in the way that you think about this. You might have a chance to do an internship, maybe in an area that you hadn't really thought about, but it can be really, really fun. Take on new responsibilities, so get some great experience, if you're working while you're in school, and then also in your projects that you're doing, taking on responsibilities and leadership roles, volunteering for things that you can get some great experience out of. You can include volunteer work on a resume just because you didn't get paid for it. You still did it and learned from it. And so you can find some really great opportunities to explore as well. Keep learning and trying. A lot of this is like a big experiment where you just kind of try stuff out. And if it doesn't work, then you redesign it, tweak it a little bit, and try something new. Make sure that you're talking to other people about what you're thinking. The best opportunities can come from just really informal conversation. So if you have your brand story kind of created and you meet somebody and they're like, hey, what are you up to? What are you doing in school? Then you can tell them and they can often connect you to new people and really great opportunities. And then always anchor to your purpose. So keeping in mind what's really, really important to you, the kind of impact that you want to have for your community. Make sure that that's always the heart of all of this and that you deliver on your brand promise every time. The last kind of reflective exercise is an assessment that you can do if you have a career path in mind. This is a way of making sure it aligns and supports your well-being. So using the PERMA model and just kind of reflecting on the work that you're thinking about. Does it offer opportunity for interest and enjoyment? Does it lead to intrinsic motivation? Does it allow me to be the very best person that I am? Do I want to keep learning? Is this something that is going to keep my interest and keep me enthusiastic and excited? Do I feel an affiliation and connection to the people that do the work? Do I feel like I found my people? Do I feel like I belong? Does it connect me to something bigger than myself and enable me to make an impact that aligns with my values? Does the work feel significant? Am I going to come home at the end of the day and say, I did something important? And is it feasible and doable for me? Can I make meaningful progress in this work? Is it going to be challenging and interesting? And how can I anticipate the strengths that I'll need to bring to the table to meet some of those challenges? So that